Welcome back, Justin here on this beautiful early spring day. The sun is out and the orchids are enjoying a little bit of sun there, but I've got something exciting arrived in the post. It's another haul from Lucke Orchideen in Germany this time, Brazilian import. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so I've just opened the box. Got a little letter here from Lucke, and fortunately I do understand German a little bit, so I can read it. And for those who receive these boxes and don't know what it's trying to tell them, what it's basically saying is when you receive the box, wait for 12 hours at room temperature before opening the box. Let the plants acclimatize to the warmer temperature because it's winter and it's cold. Alright, so this is the contents of the box. Got a little complimentary bit of fertilizer there and 7 orchids plus some pots. So let's open them up and see what's inside. Alright, so first up we've got Phalaenopsis bronze maiden. It's a primary hybrid of walkeriana and Memoria. Very nice hybrid, which it's a good flowering size plant, so should be fine. This would be the one that would be most sensitive to the cold, but seems to have arrived in good condition. Next up is Laelia Zip, or Catalya Zip. This is a hybrid, primary hybrid of Memoria by Tenebrosa. You can probably see it on the label there. This is a little seedling, I guess, pretty good size seedling. Yeah, this is a really nice hybrid. I've seen this one on some photos and I think in one of Orchid Girl's clips, and I thought, yeah, I would really like that if the chance ever came along, and the chance came along, so now I've got it. Alright, so next up we've got Catalina Mori Bleui. It's another primary hybrid, granulosa by Atalaia. You see the tag there. It's a pretty good size. With Atalaia in it, it shouldn't grow too big, hopefully. Atalaia is regarded as a bit tricky to grow, especially here in the Netherlands. So the primary hybrid's probably a better bet. But the photos of this looked really nice, so I thought I'd give it a try. Next up we have Catalya amethystoglossa Cerulea. It's a named clone, Liza by Atalaia. This is a good size juvenile plant, I would say. Of course, amethystoglossa get big, about 1 meter high and 1 meter wide, so it'll take quite some years to get to that size, but I think this is a good size. And amethystoglossa, of course, is quite spectacular, so yeah, look forward to that one. And this one is Catalya walkeriana. You can see that this has been freshly potted up. Looks to me like it's over potted. So in fact, with all of these plants, I'll be taking them out of the pot to have a look at the roots. It is an import from Brazil, most of them at least, so probably most of the roots will be dead, and I just cut them off and wait for the plant to send out some new roots. But this one I'll definitely will put into a smaller pot, so we'll take a look at that later. This one is Catalya Labiato Rubra. Beautiful, intensely coloured Rubra, well, that's what the Rubra kind of means, intense pink, hot pink. So this is a good sized plant. Also freshly potted up. I expect that all the roots will be dead. But I'm not too worried about that. It's a good enough plant, it's in good condition. It should be able to put out some new roots. Right, so the last orchid in the haul is Catalya Dupriana. This is a primary hybrid of Warneri and Varshavicii. Of course, anything with Varshavicii in it is going to be pretty nice. And the photos I saw of this looks really nice, combining the best of the two species. And this is a good sized plant. It's already flowered, it looks like. There's an old flower spike there. And it's really not a problem that these plants don't have any roots on them. They're imported from Brazil, so they've come a long way across the world, and it's to be expected, but these Cattleyas are tough enough that they can recover. I did also buy some plants from Lucke last year, so we can take a look to see what they look like 1 year later. Okay, so this is a plant that I bought 1 year ago, exactly 1 year ago, you can see, March 21. This is Cattleya Warneri, Santa Teresa, a very beautiful clone of Warneri. And this plant actually took quite a while to get going, to get the roots going. I just very carefully tried not to water it too much, and slowly but surely it did put out some roots, and through the winter it's grown this new leaf. Apparently the Warneris do grow in the winter, which is, I guess, a bit of a disadvantage here in Northern Europe. But yeah, that's coming along, and I think, yeah, that should be getting into flowering size in maybe in 2 years, something like that. If this one matures off nicely, get a bit of momentum, and then can start cranking out some flowers. But this one, this is obviously already flowering size, so it'll just be a matter of nursing it back to full health, that it gets a nice good root system on it. But when a plant's this size, usually it's got enough strength built up there that it's going to push out a good root system at some point this year. Hopefully it won't take too long. I mean, that's the risk, is if there's no roots, then it can't hydrate itself. These pseudobulbs are all going to shrivel up. That's part of the process, but at some point they do need to get some hydration, and they need roots to do that. So it's a waiting game. It can take 6 months for the roots to grow. Right, so this is walkeriana. I've taken it out of the pot, and as I expected, these roots, they've pretty much had it. This root here might be okay, but most of these roots will go, so I'll take them off now. Okay, so I've taken off all the dead roots. These are all dead. The plant also split itself up for me into 2 plants, so I got 2 there now. And if you look at this big piece here, this large piece here, that is very close to flowering size for walkeriana. They don't have to get that big to flower, although they can grow quite large, but that's already pretty close to flowering size. Walkeriana, of course, is one of the ones which is a little bit more specific in its cultural requirements, I suppose. It likes a very hot summers, I believe, which shouldn't be a problem in the greenhouse, but also very sharp drainage, and especially in the winter they don't like to have wet feet at all, so less so even than a lot of other Cattleyas. So that will be a point of concern So I'm tossing up whether to put it in a net pot here like this, where it will get maximum ventilation. I think something like that is going to be the way to go. Yeah, so, and with some very rough bark. So I'm going to pop that in there now. Okay, so that's potted up now. I ended up just using actually a fairly small size bark, because in this pot it's just going to dry very, very quickly. So I don't think that's going to be a problem, and this holds it stable. Now you can see the size of the pot I planted it into versus the pot that it came in. So something to bear in mind. I think the nurseries, they expect that you're going to repot them, so they just shove it into what they've got available basically. I think that's what's happened, but that's way too big. So this, I think this should be a more appropriate size for this plant, for this walkeriana. And yeah, I was just going to say, if you want to know some more about walkeriana, then I recommend to check out Stephen Van Kempen Lewis channel on YouTube, because he's got some amazing plants which he often shows on his channel. Okay, this one is Laelia Zip, Milleri by Tenebrosa. So you can see it's also a bit over potted in my opinion. It's got a bit of sphagnum moss around it, so I'm just going to remove all that and also trim off the dead roots. Alright, so here's Laelia Zip after the roots have been trimmed off. You can see there's not much left there at all. This plant does have two new growths on it, so I think it's going to be quite difficult for the plant to push these growths out without any roots. But yeah, we'll do our best. Okay, so Laelia Zip is potted up now into a tiny little pot. And I've got a moisture retentive mix in there, but I'm hoping that because it's such a small pot, it's going to dry out quickly enough. Because it's in growth, I do want to give it some moisture to try to help it to push those growths out, but it hardly has any roots. So this one is touch and go. This is going to be a bit of a challenge. In last year's import, I lost one plant out of, I don't know, I think more than half a dozen. That was Catalya Dupriana. So yeah, it can happen. I'm a little bit worried about this one, but we'll do our best. Okay, and this is what amethystoglossa looks like out of the pot. Again, a lot of the roots are not really viable anymore. These bifoliates don't like being disturbed, of course, so I'm going to try to be a bit gentle with it. Right, so this is amethystoglossa after the dead roots have been trimmed off. Surprisingly, this one has got more viable roots on it than the other ones. Yeah, it was in a bit of sphagnum moss as well, so I think amethystoglossa can take a bit more moisture, or likes a bit more moisture. But I'm going to move it into a smaller pot, so I go from this size down to this size. I always stick with Cattleyas, so you want to put them into the smallest size pot that you can, so that they can drain the water out of it and not be sitting with wet feet. Alright, so there's little Mr. Amethystoglossa, Catalya Amethystoglossa, all potted up in a smaller pot. Looks happier already. This is Catalya Labiata out of the pot. Yeah, most of these roots are rotted, I'd say. Yeah, there's nothing much viable there, so I'll take them off and pot it up. Alright, so this is what's left of Labiata after the roots have been trimmed off. The dead roots, I should say. Well, there's not much left. But the good news about Labiata is that it is quite vigorous one of the more vigorous Cattleyas. There's a growth eye in there as well. So hopefully it's going to fairly quickly push out some new roots together with that growth eye. Yeah, but it is a larger pot, so we'll put it up into something a bit larger, and larger plant I should say, sorry, and yeah, put it up into something larger with some coarse bark, I think, just to try to help it get started. Alright, so Catalya Labiato is potted up now. You can see I've got some very coarse bark in there with some finer bark on top to keep it stable and try to give, yeah, hold some moisture, but not too much. That's the trick, that's the balance that we're trying to achieve with Cattleyas. Alright, this is the last one of the Cattleyas from the Brazilian import from Lucke, Catalya Dupriana. I've taken that out, and we can see that most of the roots on this one are also going to have to be removed. But if we look up there, we can see green root tip. So this, that's what I mean with a larger plant like this. It's got enough reserve, it's just going to start pushing out roots regardless. So not too many concerns for this one, and this is also a primary hybrid, which also means added vigor. So this one should be an easy doer, I guess. Right, so this is what it looks like after I trimmed off the roots. Yeah, I didn't really pay too much care, just chop them off. And there's plenty of new roots coming down already, so this is going to be fine. There was a little piece that broke off. Can put that up in separately, maybe give that away at some stage. Alright, so that's Dupriana potted up now. So for this one I used the same trick, very large coarse bark underneath, and then smaller grade bark on top of that. So the coarse bark adds stability and drainage, the finer bark adds some moisture retention. These Cattleyas can be quite surprisingly thirsty, I've found, so they do need quite a bit of moisture, especially when they're growing. This is the little bit that broke off. Put that into a little mix with sphagnum moss. It's a tiny little pot, so it'll be drying out quickly enough. It'll be interesting to see how the two of them go. Oh, that reminds me, so there was one more Memoria, the Bleui. This one, decided not to repot this one. It's obviously, this is not a fresh import. It's already grown into the pot. So I'll leave that for now. Might repot it in a couple of months. Right, so here we are out in the little greenhouse, and just take a quick look out here. Not that much going on, but we do have a nice Cymbidium there. It's a species, lost the tag, I think it might be Laelia. Yeah, that's got a nice big spike on it, very big plant. Yeah, it's a bit too big really, but that goes outside in the summer. And the other one, which we've got here, is a Phalaenopsis. What is it? Dick Clemens. Yeah, Phalaenopsis Dick Clemens coming into flower, beautifully grown by Wichmann. I've had it for, I don't know, 6 months I guess. It's coming into flower, and I've never flowered a Phalaenopsis before, so it would be very nice to see that in flower. This is the Catelya Dupriana that I just potted up. They really like to be hanging like this. Lots of air and light, warmth. Yeah, in my experience, this is what they like. Yeah, here's a good example. The roots you get when you grow like this. Yeah, they love it. Here's another one. So just take a quick look at the import, the Brazilian import from a year ago from Lucke, to compare to see what we can expect after 12 months. So these three hybrids here have all done very well. They've all put out good root systems. The leaves are looking great, but it did take a long time for them to recover from the import. It took months. They're all shriveled up, but then somewhere in the summer they came back, and they're now looking good. And then I've got a couple of, yeah, I'd say more challenging ones. This one, Egyptian Queen, took a long time, did nothing. And now a year later, it's just starting to get going, really. It's putting down some roots. It did grow this leaf over winter, very small leaf. But really for a long time did nothing. And the same goes for this one, walkeriana, Cerulea. Also did nothing for the longest time. The growth failed, it had no roots, but over the winter it's started to look good. It's put out the roots. So I guess what that just goes to show is that it is quite traumatic for these plants coming all the way from Brazil. It's a different season as well, don't forget. So they're going from summer to winter, back into summer again, all in a matter of a couple of months. And then without any roots as well. So it is asking a lot. I'd say it's, yeah, it's good to try it. I think, you know, you'll learn a lot from the experience, and yeah, I feel confident that that I'll be able to get all these plants going. This is the one here that didn't make it. I still keep it for some reason, but yeah, it's a Genmanii. That it's still alive, but really, it's probably just better just throw it away. It does have a little growth on it, so you know, hope springs eternal. But I don't know. I have to take a tough decision at some point and throw it. Right, well, it's time for me to get to the serious business of watering all these orchids. So thanks for stopping by. Till next time. Bye.